What's going on, guys? So again, I'm gonna have to keep my voice down because we just put our daughter down. Aspen is down for the night, so I gotta be a little bit quiet. But in this video, I'm gonna talk about how much money have I made from selling Pokemon cards. So, because I know many of you are going to want to get straight to the chase, I'm sure this title is going to bring a lot of people that are just going to be in it for the money and don't care about the hobby. That could be possible. Um, but either way, I think that there's information out of this that both parties can enjoy, whether you're a collector or whether you're someone looking to make some passive income on the side or just have a side hustle and you've got some extra time. Um, so when I started selling cards, I didn't get any sales at all. It was terrible. I think with the first month, I may have got one sale or something like that, or two sales or something like maybe three. And then the second month, I was getting like four or five. And then the third month, I was getting, 10 sales, in the month. And now it's at a point where pretty much every 2 or 3 days, I sell something. Now, if I'm not lowering my prices, I have a harder time selling stuff. But this is pretty much what I did, and this is how long it took. So I could have gone on eBay, but there was a lot of competition on eBay, so I pretty much decided that market's way oversaturated. And I went on this app called Mercari, and my wife had told me about it, and I was like, let's try this out. And we both ended up making seller accounts. So what happened was I started my account. I started shipping stuff out, and I was using envelopes to ship these cards out because, how hard could it be to ship a thin little card? Get yourself a paper envelope, put a stamp on it, ship it out, costs you 25 cents, whatever, 50 cents, whatever. That actually worked for like my first 10 sales. That worked. Other people may be continuing to do this, but I was just basically using the honor system and trusting people until this happened. I helped my wife. She started selling cards on her Mercari as well, and she got scammed by somebody, and it was actually a pretty decently valuable card. It was a base set Blastoise Unlimited. It wasn't Shadowless. It wasn't first edition. For those of you who don't know what that is, first edition is the first print run that ever came out. Shadowless is the second print run, and then you had Unlimited. But it wasn't either of those. It was an unlimited. It was an unlimited Blastoise, and so it was probably worth like 30 or 40 bucks in the condition that it was in. But that person ended up ripping my wife off, and I freaked out about it. I was so mad because I was like, I know you got the card, and maybe there's a chance they didn't, but they definitely did. I do believe they got the card, and I think they took advantage of the fact that we weren't using tracking, and that's on us. That's something that I've, learned from this business, is that just have tracking on everything. So I'm selling stuff in the second or third month. I'm selling stuff, whether it's cards like this or booster boxes like this, empty boxes for displays and for aesthetics. And then, of course, theme decks. We've got our theme decks up here. So I was selling a little bit of everything, and the theme decks seem to be doing pretty well. I think because of the way I took the photos and the way I talked about the decks, like, you can't just put something up and expect someone to be interested in it. You have to create and build that interest. I do feel that way, at least. I think that when I get into selling more stuff in the future, like I have a huge sealed collection now of modern Pokemon product. When I sell that stuff down the road, I think it's gonna sell like hotcakes, because right now I'm selling like used old stuff, and it's selling very well right now. So I do think, and that's relative, from me making no money and my wife and me struggling to find shipping. And that's another thing. Shipping was definitely a barrier, because shipping takes away from the money that you're making, and then the fees from the platforms that you're using. You're better off using a platform and then leaving a link or something, somehow maybe messaging people, to create a segue into your own online store that you're not paying anybody. There's no middleman service that you're paying. But I like Mercari. I feel like they take care of me. I've had incidents where people returned stuff and it was damaged, or I feel like they were, trying to open or get into stuff. So I let Mercari know, and they fully gave me my money back, even on stuff that came back to me that I had again. I got the money from the sale. Even though the sale was a return, I still got the money. So in some cases, especially if people, don't ship your stuff with care back to you, you can actually get paid, even if your stuff gets returned. So it's kind of like there's no way you can lose when you have a company supporting you like that. And so I think Mercari does a really good job of that. And I have my Mercari store linked in this YouTube channel. You can find it in my bio. But let's see. Yeah, so there was Mercari. I'm going to get to the nitty gritty here. This is what everybody needs to know, and then I'll talk about the shipping costs. I made about 11 point something in revenue over the last year. I probably spent, like, on the stuff that I specifically was selling, I probably spent, yeah. So my wife fosters animals, and guys, stop! My wife fosters animals, and she's always bringing home a new dog or a new cat or something, and it drives our dogs crazy. We have 3 little Maltese, and they go crazy. And because she fosters so much, now I want a big dog. I really want a pit bull, but that's a whole another discussion. Anyways, 11.2 or 11.3, that's the number. That's what most of you want to hear. How much money did this guy make selling Pokemon cards? There's nothing, luxurious or amazing about it, especially now with inflation and, the rates and the cost of everything going up. 11,000 really doesn't do much for you. But from a guy that had no idea what he was doing as a seller, because I've never done that before. I've never had any kind of e-commerce thing. I used to sell sneakers, but I did it locally. It was not something that I ever did online because I didn't want to go through the hassle of shipping stuff out. All that stuff just seems technical to me, and you have to be savvy, and I gave myself all these excuses for why I felt like I couldn't do it. And I feel like that's the problem with a lot of people, is they feel like they can't do something, so they just don't do it. Anyways, so I probably spent about $3,000 or $4,000 on the actual product that I was selling, because most of the stuff that I was selling was stuff that I just either had several versions of, or I bought it a couple times trying to get cheaper prices, and I just sold what I had extra of. Some stuff I found buying people's collections locally for like a couple $100, and then I would make that money back on the first couple sales, and then I'd be making profit on everything else. But long story short, I think I spent about $3,000 or $4,000 on the stuff that I sold. So if 11 was my revenue, and granted, the fees took away 10% of that. So really 10 or 9.9 was my revenue minus the 3. So I really made about 6.9 or $7,000 this year in actual profit, cash money going back into my bank account. That was pretty badass though. Getting that money back in, like selling, stuff like Pokemon cards, I just thought it was awesome. And I think anybody that knocks people that collect Pokemon cards, I think they're foolish. I think even if you're collecting and you're not starting a business, at any point in time, you've got all those cards that you can still sell. You can still get the money back on that stuff. And I think in 5 to 10 years, you're going to get money back on the packs that you're ripping now, even with the cards that are sitting and stacking up. Although I do think people should keep all the modern product sealed. Anyways, my point is, you're able to make money. I'm able to make money on vintage product. So I know that if I'm collecting stuff now that's sealed and I'm sitting on it, in 5, 10 years, whatever, I'm going to be able to sell that stuff like hotcakes, and it's going to sell really easily because it's brand new. But anyways, the stuff that I specialize in is vintage mostly. It's mostly boxes and decks and vintage cards. That's the stuff that I've stuck with. And honestly, I haven't even posted that much stuff this year, so I was kind of shocked to even have a revenue stream like that. That was awesome. And I've learned how much I need to be paying for stuff now. So I was overpaying. If I could do it over, I probably would have spent more like $2,000 flat selling that stuff, which would have netted me about $8,000, which would feel pretty good for the year. Now, if I increase that number, if I even did 10 or 20% more, that would put me at like 9K total coming back with an $8,000 profit, or 10K coming back with a $9,000 profit. And that would be great. Even if I can just do 10 or 20% more each year, that would be great. But as a side hustle, I highly recommend it. Yeah, there's a barrier to everything, but really it's not complicated. Like, that's the thing. It's not complicated. You do have to be tech savvy to have other online e-com stores and to do drop shipping and stuff like that. I mean, I've looked into a lot of stuff that I could do to make money on the side. And for me, I was already getting back into the hobby like 3 years ago. I was starting to buy a couple, Pokemon cards here and there. Nothing crazy like, a Holo Charizard or a Blastoise or a Venusaur, the big three, maybe a Pikachu. It was like nothing crazy. Some theme decks, it was nothing. And then gradually, I found my parents found my Yu-Gi-Oh collection. They never found my Pokemon collection, and that drove me mad. I was like, yo, I had so many cards as a kid. I could easily have made money on those. So I just was like, you know what? I'll make my own collection all over again. All this is from nothing. It's from the ground up. Now, it is in a relatively short period of time. It's only been a couple of years. But my point is, I did a lot of stuff within the last couple years, and within the last year especially, starting the last year and a half, starting my YouTube channel, starting my Mercari store online and selling stuff and pulling in $11,000 plus. Like, I was really, really proud of myself. There's no hype there. That's full transparency. That's full truth. And I don't even think I did that well. Like, people that are selling single cards that are making a couple dollars and they're just selling a bunch of cards over and over, I couldn't do that. That would drive me crazy. Going back and forth to the post office. Some people may figure out a cheaper shipping method. I know eBay actually has a thing that you print out. We don't have a printer here. That's another problem. I really need to get a printer here. It'll make my life easier. But you print out an envelope and you just ship cards out that way. That's like the cheapest way to do it. And it has tracked shipping, even though the shipping really isn't really tracked. It's kind of like a delayed tracking. If you guys know what I mean, if you're a collector, you know what I mean. It's cheap cards, when you get them sent to you, it says that they're going to get delivered one day and then 2 days later they show up. And that's normal for like eBay envelopes. And then so the way I started shipping stuff out is I was doing UPS. Once I started doing tracking, I was doing UPS. And I know what you're going to say. UPS is terrible. Why did you go UPS? So I'm going to explain why I went with UPS. And that is that the single thing is really, they're right down the street. The other post offices really aren't close. There's one that's pretty close, but it's not in the best area of town, so I really wasn't psyched to go there. So I went to the UPS. It was in a nice area, pretty fancy, honestly. Cotswold area. If you know Charlotte, you know Cotswold. It's like really, really nice little shopping center. And there's a UPS and there's a GameStop right across from the UPS. So I knew if I went to UPS and I made money and I was shipping something out, I could splurge a little bit, go to GameStop, buy myself some packs and rip them open for the channel, or keep them. I opened a lot of packs for the channel, and that was kind of a regret, because I was trying to make money as well. So if I'm making money and then spending it on opening product, not even keeping it sealed, then I was like negating some of those profits like so easily, because I was buying whatever I could buy in the stores, and that was a huge mistake. I find way more value shopping for stuff online, Craigslist, Goodwill, finding a good deal, getting it in, and then reselling that. I do a video about it, so I get content for it. But we went to UPS first because it was closer. Guys, I was paying like $15 to ship some stuff out. It was mind-boggling. I was like, how am I spending so much money shipping out a couple theme decks? And I would beg people pretty much like, please get 2 or 3 things from me. It'll make my shipping cheaper. Then I decided I can't do this anymore. I am spending so much on shipping that it's literally cutting into my costs, and the fees are already cutting into my costs. So forget this. I'm gonna go to USPS. I went to USPS, and oh my God, everything changed. Not only was USPS way cheaper, but here's the thing. The USPS, and it was pretty far from me. It was in another shopping center across town, Park Road Shopping Center. And they had a kiosk. So the kiosk was a machine that would allow me to put everything in on my time. I wouldn't have to talk to somebody. I wouldn't have to wait in line, none of that. And the line for this USPS was crazy. If you ever go to a USPS, the one that was closer to me, that wasn't in the best area, I ended up going there eventually because I got sick and tired of going to UPS because the costs were too high, but the line was so long. So I was like, oh, I was frustrated. And so I went to this other one across town because I read something somewhere into the Charlotte local thing about shipping products, that there was a kiosk there that some people liked using it. I went there, sure enough, it was terrifying. So I get on the kiosk and I'm like, I have no idea if I'm gonna mess something up, ship something out, print the wrong label, and I've already paid for it. There were a lot of things that I was worried about. Now I've got it down to a science. It's really easy. It's a little time consuming. Um, like they even ask for a business name, which I thought was pretty cool because then it would allow me to put my Mercari store in the postage, which I think was dope. Um, I don't know if this is old news to people that are shipping, but when I found the kiosk, that was a game changer. So now I'm shipping stuff out for like an average of 5 to 6. And some people will say that's still too much money. You need to get that price down. I think if I use like a bubble mailer, and get a label printed for like mail that you slip in a slot, I really think I could get that price down to like 350 or 4. And I haven't tried that yet. But that's the other thing. I don't like selling single cards. And here's a reason why I don't like selling single cards. Um, if you're gonna sell a lot of cards, great. Like a big group of cards, great. But when you sell a single card, the chances of that card getting bent, creased, whatever in the mail and getting destroyed are pretty dang high. I got a $300 card in the mail once and it was bent, and I actually made a video on this channel about it. It's my USPS destroyed my Rayquaza VMAX alt art. That was devastating me. I was so angry that day, and I didn't even care about like sending it back or returning it or the time that was going to take. I was just mad that this card had such a lack of protection and got destroyed by USPS. I know they're throwing packages around. If I was a USPS guy, I would probably be throwing packages around too, and I'd be like, here's your mail, everybody. But anyways, so it's been fun doing this business. I really think people need to be less judgmental on how people are making money, and just be a little more open-minded. I'm into this hobby, so it's very easy for me to make money from it. But even if I wasn't in this hobby, it'd be hard to think about, but I feel like I could sell everything behind me like today. If someone offered me the right amount of money, I would probably be like, you know what, I can start over somewhere else. Let's go. If somebody can pay me fair market value or even just a teeny bit more for the struggle and time it took to build a collection like this, then like definitely gonna take that money and probably start over. But I also have to think about it. It's the time that you put into this stuff. But anyways, I think it's a great business to go and start. I think if you have time on your hands and you want to do something and you don't want to do self-care, you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to meditate, you're like me and you have, well, I'm still going to the gym, but you have like ADD and you're constantly thinking of stuff. Your mind is constantly racing. You have to be doing something. That is why I love having this store, because I'm like, what can I sell? What do I want to get rid of? I'll take a picture of this. I'll write down a nice listing. That whole process is actually kind of fun, and it gives me something to do. It keeps me focused, and basically I don't feel like I'm wasting my time. Sometimes when I'm playing video games, and I love playing video games, I have my whole life, but I've also felt like I could have been doing something different with my time, because I wasn't lazy and I had a little bit of motivation and I wanted to sell some stuff on Mercari. I ended up bringing in $11,000 in sales. That was amazing. And even if after the fees and the shipping, it gets whittled down, my profit margin, it gets whittled down to me profiting, even if I netted like 9 grand or 9 point something and I profited 7, that's still, I made $7,000. 7,000. And that took a year. I'm hoping that I can make that kind of money every single month, like a net profit every single month of like $7,000. That would be epic. And that's why I'm trying to, explain to people, this is how much money I made this year. You can do it too. If I can do it, and I am by no means the long-term collector. There are people in this hobby that are huge. Anybody that's, serious collector that's on this channel knows that. There's so many big cats in this hobby. you feel like you're never going to catch up with the big dogs. But here's the thing. Your collecting is at your own pace, one card at a time. It's like a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like I took a break for a couple weeks. I stepped back. I was like, I'm gonna let my stuff sell, and I'm not gonna collect anything for myself. I'm not gonna go after any cards that I really want. And that was one of the best things that I could do because it allowed me to get my debt down completely. And that's another thing. If you don't have that cash up front to buy everything, and I ran out pretty quick because I was not only collecting for myself and collecting stuff that I personally wanted and like really valuable cards that I want in my collection, but I was also looking for stuff that I could sell. I was doing both, and that was kind of dangerous, and that ran me into a little bit of debt. I got a credit card for the first time last year, and boy, that was a crappy decision in itself. If you don't have a credit card, just maybe stay away from it. Yes, you can leverage debt. Yes, you might get some rewards, but you might also ruin yourself financially for a little bit. That's kind of what happened to me. I got really into the collecting. Now I'm back on track, got this new phone, we're making videos again, but also I feel better knowing that I'm financially better off. And that's a big thing that I feel like affects me wanting to make content, make videos, sell things. And another thing is, once I stopped buying product to sell, I noticed it was harder to sell stuff because when you're constantly listing something in your store, like if you list 1,000 things and only 1% of your stuff sells, that's still 10 things. So like, no matter what you're selling, it doesn't have to be Pokemon cards, but when you're selling things, you've got to pound the payment. You've got to list so much stuff. And you need to understand your shipping costs, your time. How much is your time worth? To me, my time was worth a lot of money. So I'm making YouTube videos because one, I think it's good therapy. I have something, that I can talk to. And three, well, that was at one. Two, I think that eventually it's going to monetize and I will be able to make money off of doing what I love and explaining that to people. And then three, I get to share what I'm collecting with you guys. So like, that's pretty much why I started the YouTube, but it goes hand in hand with the business. So like, you can start a business selling something and then make a YouTube and talk about them hand in hand. And then you've got this whole other side hustle that you're doing. My main thing that I'm doing is running a bar 24/7, Starlight on 22nd here in Charlotte. That's my main gig. But when I'm not doing that, I love building on something else that I can call my own entirely. And like, it's an extension of who I am. The bar it's an extension of who I am, but it's not, it's more of, it's more of a machine. There's going to be high volume nights where we have a lot of interactions and I'm not able to really talk to people. Doing the YouTube videos, selling cards online allows me to communicate with people. So I really love that aspect of it. Anyways, this video has gone on way too long. I simply wanted to explain how much money I made selling cards and what that whole process was like. And I'm starting to think of more video ideas that are similar to this, that are a little bit more unique than me just showing you guys stuff and maybe just giving my experiences and my advice from what I've gone through. And hopefully that can help somebody else, but also it's just the truth and it's full transparency. And no, it's not a lot of money, but the goal is that someday, in the near future, I can sell maybe 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000, a year in profit from Pokemon card sales or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever it is. It can grow into anything, really. It doesn't even have to be cards. I could grow into flipping sports cars. Who cares? But as long as you're doing something, because there's so much money out there to be made. It can't all be talking about Pokemon cards on this channel all the time. Sometimes I want to have a good impact on people, to be entrepreneurial, to go out there, to motivate themselves, to make a little bit more money, because the struggle is real. And it's much easier to start a business and watch it grow than it is to wait 10, 20 years and then try and start something. It's going to be a lot larger of a barrier to get into, to break through. I think right now, it's only been 20 years since we've had the internet, basically. Like, there's still a lot of time for people to get out there and start their businesses. And I don't think people should have any excuses as far as doing that. But without further ado, Peace out, guys. Thank you so much for my new subscribers. If you are watching this to the end, thank you so much. Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. Guys, we jumped like 20 subscribers for the first time ever overnight. I have never gotten 20 subscribers overnight. It was like 23 subscribers. I can't believe that. That's so awesome. So thank you guys so much. And you make me feel like my time is valuable here. And that's exactly what I'm going for. So anyways, hope you guys have a great night. Peace out, everybody. Thanks for watching the channel. And hopefully this video quality is better than it was on my previous. I changed the settings. Hopefully that helps. Peace out.